For the last 33 years, the Centre for Fortean Zoology has been the English-speaking world's foremost mystery animal research group. We have sent expeditions all over the world, and we have published books, magazines and journals which, being of no real commercial significance, would never have been published by anybody else, because we're not in it for the money. Now, a few months ago, Dave Scott of CFZ Canada suggested that we should have a monthly forum online, a bit like the BBC's Question Time. This would be where a regular panel of CFZ representatives and special guests would debate the cryptozoological news of the moment and take questions from the audience. So we approached our friends at the Simply Spooky Network, who knew far more about live streaming than we do. And much to our great joy, they said yes. And now you can watch it once a month on the last Wednesday of the month show. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. After all these months and weeks of planning, it looks like we've actually managed to get all the people who are supposed to be here this evening all in the same place at the same time. What hasn't changed is that I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. And basically all six of us are making this up as we go along, because this is the first of what I hope will be a long-running series of last Wednesday in the month shows. And it's the first time I've ever hosted a event or a show like this. I've been co-host to Viv, but I've never actually been the bloke in the hot seat. So forgive me in advance for any cock-ups that happen, and we will just take it as it goes. For those of you who don't know us, Vivian, wave please, dear. This is Vivian, who's going to be basically, she's the sensible one, and she, together with me, is going to be the ringmaster. And if I call her a ringmistress, that makes her sound like something slightly sordid or something out of Lord of the Rings. I'm not sure which, or both. But she is the ringmistress who's going to try and keep this all in order. We have David, waves to the boys and girls. We have Dave Scott, whose idea this was in the first place from CFZ Canada. We have Dan Winter, Dan, wave, who is a retired zookeeper and is the person who most usually is the opposite number to Viv on the Wednesday evening Simply Spooky show. We have Ian Squibbs, wave Ian, and he is. Does that wine taste as disgusting as it looks?
It's lovely.
Yes, he had made the mistake of having a bottle of wine in the boot of his car all day on the first hot day of the year, and it looks really unpleasant. But Ian is a Loch Ness expert and general lake monster freak. And then we have our special guest for this first inaugural episode, Harlem Karma. And he's the guy down there. Wave, Harlem, so everyone knows who he is.
He's the good-looking one down there.
Yes, he's the young, handsome one. And he's probably going to end up having my job in 10 years' time, because he is one of Britain's youngest and up-and-coming cryptozoologists, and I am very impressed with all the stuff he's done. Now, we have V. McQuillan's arrived, I see. Who else? I saw somebody else said hello before. And I didn't say shadows and lights. Hello! I don't know if you can all see this, but I'm getting Nettie's here. Hi, Nettie. And Noreen is here. This is all going jolly well. We've actually got an audience as well. I wasn't expecting this.
Hi, Nettie.
Okay, I've got around to introducing everybody. So, what I think I would like to do to start off with, Ian, we've had all sorts of exciting stuff at Loch Ness in the last few weeks, haven't we?
That's quite true, John. And I think we'll start off with an article in the Daily Mail, but it was in other papers as well, entitled the following: Has Loch Ness Monster surfaced again? Nessie hunter spots bubbles in wave, then dark grey shape that disappeared underwater. So, let's have a look at the article. Reads as follows. This is the stunning moment a woman claims Nessie sank into the depths of her murky lair in what has been hailed as the latest sighting of the mythical monster. Annette Hawkins from East Kilbride, South Lanarkshire, was visiting Loch Ness for the weekend when something unusual in the waves caught her eye. She was shocked when eerie bubbles broke the surface of the water, and as she peered through her binoculars, as she watched, a dark grey shape suddenly rose from the depths before diving again under the surface. She said, I was using binoculars at first for a short time, and then I'd seen the waves changed. So I kept looking, and then I saw a few bubbles in the waves which caught my attention. Then I'd seen a shape, dark grey like, was moving, so I took out my mobile phone and caught a picture of the object, and there we go, we can all see that. So what do we think? Definitely some humped form on the surface of the loch.
I know what it looks like to me, but what do the rest of you think?
The back of a plesiosaur? The top of the head, perhaps?
Or possibly a seal?
Possibly, but they are quite rare in Loch Ness, so...
Not as rare as plesiosaurs.
I'll continue with the article. She then went on. It then went underwater and did not emerge back up. In Annette's photo, white water can be seen closing over the enigmatic presence just as it submerges. The sighting was made near Urquhart Castle on the loch's western shore on March 2nd. It was reported last week that to the Loch Ness Centre in Drumnadrochit, which also received another sighting last month at Dawes Beach on the northern shore. The centre, which is gearing up for the quest, the mass Nessie search, which is now entering its third year, hopes the sighting is a good omen. So there we go. So, well, if we look at the photo, let's have a look then. So we've got the hump there and the waves coming in, but obviously to the left of the photo we can see the shore. So this is quite obviously near the shore. So could this be a rock, perhaps, rather than the monster?
It's too small to be a monster. If you put that in context to the size of the trees, if that was going to be a monster, you expect that hump to be much bigger than what you're seeing there.
Well, that's only part of the monster, though. The rest of it is under the water, if you use your imagination. So,
mind you, if it's that close to the shore, it wouldn't be that deep, would it?
Well, Loch Ness does have rather a sharp, as you go in, it does go down rather sharply under the water, so you don't have to walk that far out for it to get deep. But yes, but obviously, there's not a lot of detail there, but that's the That's the deal with Loch Ness photos. The more detail you have, the more suspicious you have. So it's photos like this that make the mystery. And yeah, that's if it's not a monster, I would go with the rock theory, though it could be a wave, maybe taking some kind of form.
Yes.
But I think that's a bit of a long shot, as it does seem to be a sort of a sort of ripples around it as if it is a solid object. So,
Do you know
Yeah,
what?
I would
To
say
me,
it was a solid object.
no, go on, Jonathan.
Sorry?
Go on.
I think it's a solid object, but one of the big problems with lake monster reports from all over the world is the insistence that people have that we are talking about prehistoric monsters from the age of the giant reptiles. Get it into your heads, boys and girls. The only dinosaurs that are around today go tweet, tweet, tweet and flap their wings. All the great giant reptiles, the plesiosaurs, the dinosaurs, the
Komodo dragon.
pterosaurs, and
Ah,
everything, all the ancient giant reptiles were dying out before the KT extinction event, and the KT extinction event just finished them off.
Robert says that Loch Ness is not old enough.
Nope, and it was frozen solid in the last ice age. And I know people say that you could, but what about the River Ness? Couldn't they have swum up the River Ness from the sea? Has any of you ever been to Inverness? Because the River Ness is quite shallow, especially the bit where it goes through the middle of a bloody leisure centre.
the monster could have done it at night though. Gone along the River Ness at night,
Well, and stopped
so the
off
leisure
for
centre was
a
closed.
and stopped off for a burger and a Costa coffee on the way up.
Hmm.
Do you know? I know it's not, and I know it's not because, but it to me, the shape of it, just the shape of it, from where it is for me, it looks like a porpoise. But
now that I've always said that the idea of a 40-foot prehistoric monster, even if such a thing existed, swimming up the River Ness is bloody stupid. The idea of a 5-foot porpoise swimming up the River Ness, if there was a particularly high tide, and I've got no idea what the tides were like in Scotland earlier this year, but I think a 5-foot porpoise could quite well swim up the River Ness. I don't think it would last very long in the very peaty water, but yes, you're right. It does look like a porpoise. Good one, Dan.
thank you.
If you can get a seal in the River Thames in central London, why can't you get a porpoise in Loch Ness?
Well, the thing is about you and Dan, my dear, you've always had a sense of porpoise.
You've also had a
do
whale in the River Thames, hasn't there? There's been a whale in the River Thames.
There has, yeah.
Yeah.
It could be the back of a diver, perhaps, as well. It's got a bit of a wetsuit look about it.
Am I going to be a completely rotten sod, Harlan? You're the new kid on the block. What do you think?
Thinking about it. Yep. Have a good hard think about what it could be.
Most likely, not please.
That's easy for you to say.
Oh, bless him.
What is the salinity of Loch Ness?
What's the which? I didn't hear what you said, David. I didn't hear what you said either, Harlan.
Go ahead, Ian.
No,
it's very shallow as well.
quite true. So we're looking at something in shallow water, but we still can't rule out the possibility of a monster. Okay? There is a closer up photo, John. Should we have a look at that? Maybe we can see a little bit more detail.
Isn't that a different incident, the other one?
Was it? I thought it was the same one, but it's all
Was it?
part of.
I thought the other picture, I'll put it up,
Let's
but
have a
as
look.
far as
Make
I
a
was
mental image of
aware,
that. Maybe it was, but I got them from the same article, so I think it was just a close up of this one, so we can see for ourselves.
but this one,
Any more detail?
oh,
That's the
that
one.
one.
Yeah. Isn't
That's a
that the same
seal.
one?
That's
Is
a
it?
seal.
Well,
Seal?
it looks to me like a prehistoric reptile. I think it's a plesiosaur. I agree with Ian.
Otter? Otter maybe? Eunuch eel as well. But we'll come on to that.
If you look at what would be like skin,
Hmm.
it's got that mottled effect that I see on seals. Dan, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Those seals.
I think that's
that have...
I think. Do you know what? The more I look at that, the more I think that's sort of some sort of freak wave thing. Yeah, it's the same. It looks to be the same texture, and unless of course it's just. I don't know. It's an awkward one, isn't it?
Well, now
we've
got a closer up look at it. It does look more wavy than the first version. At a distance, it looks more solid, but looking at that now, yeah, it could be a wave. We've also got the question, as we often have, is okay. The photographer had a mobile phone with a video function, multiple picture functions. Could have taken lots of pictures. Could have taken a video of it, and we would all read. It would put it to bed, isn't it? So there's always that question arises. Why do these people only take one picture, especially these days? But yeah, there we are.
I've been confused by this because I thought there were two different incidents, but having had a quick scoot online, you're right, they are the same incident, and I've been talking nonsense. Robert, you're right in many, because I've been to Loch Ness and on a number of occasions, and it's a bit like a wind tunnel. And the waves and the wakes you see are really, really, really peculiar. They don't look like the logic of any boat wakes or water waves that you see anywhere else that I've ever been in the world. And I think that's because it's such a steep-sided V shape, and the Scottish wind whistles all the way down from the North Sea right down it. And there are several different levels of water, and for some reason it manages to make waves in one of the lower levels of the water, which then come up over the top of the water. So, joking aside, whatever that is, it's not going to be a plesiosaur. But I think that the more I look at it, I think it's some sort of a weird wave.
The loch as well is very narrow considering its length, isn't it? It's a long body of water. 20 something miles long, 26 or something like that, and it's not very wide. So I think that maybe as well contributes to its wave formation. But yes, we can't rule anything out until it's been proved, and we can still believe there's a monster there if we want to.
Rob's come up with something quite interesting.
What's that, Robert? Yeah,
I think this is what we're looking at. We're looking at that under the water, and the bit of what we're seeing is that. If we can see that, that looks exactly like the photo, doesn't it? That there. That's exactly like the photo. And if we were to drain the lock, that's what we'd see. So there, problem solved. Yeah.
I was there, Robert, in the middle of the winter once, and the water of the loch was warmer than the air around. It was bloody freezing cold, and there was steam coming off the loch. And that was incredibly strange to see steam rising off the lake in the middle of the winter when it was so cold that I was bundled up in a jumper and my leather jacket and a big hat and everything just to try and keep myself warm.
Even if you don't believe there's a monster there, it's good to go, isn't it? It's such an atmospheric place, steeped in history. It's not just the monster; it's all the stuff that's gone on there. You've got the cat, Alistair Crowley's house, which has recently been rebuilt. You've got the cemetery below the house. It's just an amazing place.
And there is an area of woodland on the shores of the lake that I think Tim Dinsdale was the first person who wrote about it, said that it felt evil there, that there was a unearthly presence around him. Not Tim Dinsdale, it was, what's his name, the other guy. Ian, who was it who wrote The Dragon and the Disc? Ted Holiday. Ted Holiday.
Ted Holiday.
And my old mate Lee Walker, who died a couple of years ago, God rest his soul, he said that he'd been to those and had the same sort of experiences.
John, I think we hung then, or I dropped off or something. What was that you said about Ted Holiday?
Ted Holiday said that there was that area of woodland on the shores of the lake that had an evil presence in it. And that really weird shit, my term, not his, went down there. And my mate Lee Walker, who died a few years ago, said exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
Can I ask a question? I want to ask a question, Ian.
Yes.
There has been a report that Loch Ness Monster had been seen walking on dry land in a car park by not just one person, there was a few, two, I believe, father and son. Now, if this is this plesiosaur, surely that wouldn't happen. Are these people credible, or is it just one of these, again, a fairy tale fantasy because someone wants a bit of attention?
It's hard to say. Obviously, there's misidentifications, and also there are these stories. There's a good book by, I think it's Roland Watson, which is sightings on land of the monster. And there's about 40 sightings in there over the years of the monster being seen on land, most notably by the guy Arthur Grant, who almost hit the monster in his motorbike. Which was in the 1930s, and also there was the Spicer sighting, which was one of the earliest sightings, which kind of made the mystery and formed the monster as a long-necked creature. So, I suppose, would plesiosaurs have gone on land? I suppose they would have, and lumbered about on their flippers, in the same way seals do. Because if you look at a seal, that's probably the nearest thing we've got these days, isn't it? With their four kind of flippers and their longish neck. They go around on land, though the way we're presented with the plesiosaur stroke Loch Ness Monster stroke surgeon's photo, with the neck raised up gracefully like a giraffe would do. Apparently that was incorrect. The bone structure of a plesiosaur wouldn't allow it to do that. The neck was kept much lower than that. So, yeah.
And if we're talking about the picture that I think we're talking about, I've just had a quick scoot to see if I can find it online. I think that it's a freaky looking tree stump.
Is that the one that looks like a chicken?
Shit, that looks like monster, man.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
For Ian. I'm not really familiar with Loch Ness. I remember it as a kid. I'm not huge into lake monsters, although I do just study the ones in Canada. What is the salinity of Loch Ness? And has anybody ever done a study on the underground water access, like underground rivers?
Well,
that's one thing I have found up here is there's a lot. Now, Canada, fortunately, did do a study, and they traced all the underwater creeks and streams and rivers. So when we see something in a lake, it can't be there. Well, there's a great possibility it can, because there's also a 2-mile river flowing into it, 300 feet down. I kind of akin. Go ahead.
That is a theory, that because obviously, Scotland has a lot of sea serpent activity going on around it. So one theory is that a sea serpent goes into the loch and people see that. But obviously, as we discussed, to get into the loch through the River Ness, you have to go through a busy city, and people would see this plesiosaur going through the town centre, and that doesn't happen. But there's always the theory of underground caves connecting it to the sea and so forth. Even though they've not actually been found, it's very difficult because the loch is so deep and big. It's difficult to map. The solidity, well, it's very peaty. You can't see. It's not very clear. So I'm not sure the exact scientific ratio, if you like, but the water is very dark, and you're not going to see much if you go down there. Unlike Loch Morar, which is 50 odd miles away and has a similar monster, and the water is clear. So,
go ahead.
No, so in that loch, the water is clear, and people have had sightings of the monster on the bottom of the loch through 20 meters worth of water. Also, Adrian Shine, friend of John's, who is a very renowned naturalist, and he was a Loch Ness researcher in the 70s. He actually had that death trap, didn't he, that he used to go down into Loch Morar in, called Mashan. It was a little round kind of submersible, and he used to go down to the bottom of Loch Morar and look up to see a creature. That's how clear it was. Obviously, you can't do that in Loch Ness because I suppose it's so peaty and dark. So that's what.
You're all British, so you'll know this better. Now, England is a lot like Canada. You are a shield island, right? What we call the Canadian Shield, which is granite. Or are you guys more like earth, and it's rocky, right, in Scotland?
It's a bit of both, I suppose. But Loch Ness, it would be earth, hence its density, and that's the water's darkness. So
because granite will actually it favors rivers, underground rivers. Like I don't know about caves. If Nessie is some prehistoric holdover, it's very low. Okay, V just answered my question there. Thank you, V. Yeah, if it's very rocky, there is no reason those locks can't all be interconnected 200, 300 feet down by a large river.
Well, it would make sense because, as I said, Loch Morar, about 50 miles to the west of Loch Ness, also has a similar monster. And if you look into that mystery, you'll probably, like I have done, you'll probably be more interested in what has gone on in Loch Morar than Loch Ness. But it's not just Loch Morar. There's a number of lochs in Scotland which have got lake monster stories connected to them. from the ancient times of the Scottish Kelpie, which was the water demon, up
Mhm.
until even the modern day, up until the recent late 20th century. So it's not just Loch Ness, Loch Lochy, Loch Shiel. They've all had, recent sightings of water beasts. So yeah, it's worth looking into. And
I've got a question.
yeah, go for the
We
question.
now have the technology. We now have technology with underground sonar. So we've got, regardless as to whether Loch Ness is PT or not, they should still have been able to go under as deep as they can and get that sonar out. Have there been reports of that being done? And if not, why not? What do you know?
Well, in Loch Ness, it's been extensively researched with sonar, probably since the 1960s, and there have been contacts made of big objects, and obviously nothing has been definitely proved, but mysterious contacts have been made, whether they were shoals of fish, plesiosaurs, perhaps a log submerged. Who knows? But yeah, that does exist, and there's lots of data and extensive research. Most notably, Operation Deep Scan, wasn't it, John, in 1987?
Yeah.
So, which there were 3 contacts made at that time. So yeah.
I've just had a message from Harlan. He
Yes, I was going to say I've got one.
Yeah, he apologizes. His Wi-Fi is completely on the fritz, and he says, "Can he come back on another occasion when he can actually join in effectively?" I wrote back and said, "Of course he can, because he's a dear sweet lad."
I had a blip just now as well. As I said, when you see a Sasquatch, a lake monster, a ghost, often your equipment goes funny and you can't take the photo. Your camera malfunctions. I think Harlem is experiencing that as we speak. There are other forces at play tonight.
He can't, his Wi-Fi can't deal with all that fan, all the girls messaging him, behind
Well, it's
the
either
scenes.
supernatural or it's the Chinese again.
Yeah.
Hang on, he doesn't realise all the chicks that are messaging, they want to speak to me and Dave.
Dan, you've been made redundant.
I've been redundant for years, mate.
Oh, bless you. I think me and you were on the shelf with Ian.
But yeah, but it's things to consider for us all there. One thing though, I was gonna go to Scotland at this time of year on an expedition, Morar and Loch Ness, but due to external factors, I couldn't actually make it, which was a shame actually. But I will be going again at some point. But yeah, it's good stuff.
Is the Loch Ness Monster and the one seen in, is it Ireland, Dan? Are they the same monster? Or is it just Loch Ness the Loch Ness Monster popping over to Ireland for a holiday and then coming back again?
John filmed the Irish one, so he would know. What do you reckon, John?
I think that there are a dozen different phenomena. Some of them natural, some of them unnatural, which can be jumbled together, and people call the Loch Ness Monster or the Loch Oich Monster or the Loch Lane Monster or any of the Irish or Scottish or North American or Russian lake monsters. These things are reported all the way around the globe in the Northern Hemisphere. And I think there's a dozen different explanations for them.
The thing with the Irish ones, the Irish ones, they do take different forms, don't they? And the Irish lakes are a lot smaller than the Scottish lakes, and also the monsters themselves. It's not just the long neck plesiosaur types. There's different kinds of monsters, aren't there? What was the one? The Dubacam? What's it called, Tom? Yeah, which is like a big slimy dog, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
I
the
don't think
who is
people are rational enough. I don't think people are rational enough. I mean, when I go out, same as Viv, when we go out investigating, so there's 30 people on investigation overall, right? One great big area, like breaking up into pairs and whatever. You can guarantee that we'll see nothing that night. You guarantee that 25 of them will come back and have experienced something. And no, they haven't.
Mm-hmm.
So my trust in people's observation skills and interpretation of what they see is very sketchy.
And what is this,
right
Dan?
on, Dan, I agree.
And this is when you go ghost hunting, is it? Is that what it is? Where you
Yeah. I mean, all the years I've been doing it, and I've had maybe, I don't know, 5 experiences. A couple of those you could probably put down to something natural. 3 experiences are the ones that blow me away that I have got no answer for. But overall, and you know, you're talking about many years and nearly every second weekend going out, and still, you know, but you guarantee that if people see what they want to see, and I think that's the problem.
It's not just about seeing the entity, though. It's everything else that goes with it as well, isn't it? You go to Loch Ness. Yeah, I've been, but I didn't see the monster. But I wouldn't want to have not gone because there's so much else there. There's history, and it's an amazing place to go. It's not just the monster, as I said. It's Aleister Crowley. It's what went on since the 1930s and all the people that were involved, and it's such an atmospheric, untouched place. So yeah, there's that as well.
I think as well, if you go out looking for something in your mind, in your mindset, I want to see this, therefore I'm going to see that. So are we as human beings projecting that and manifesting it in our own minds, that we believe that we're seeing something that actually isn't there? That's the other question.
Or maybe
whether
a
it
lot
be
of people
ghosts,
just want to feel special, Viv.
Yeah, whether it be ghosts, monsters, whatever, you know.
Because recently, someone I know, their cat died. It was odd. Their cat died, and I went round their house the following weekend, and I was just sat in the lounge, and I kind of saw out of the corner of my eye this tail and a pair of legs run under the sofa, and I'm not sure. I'm not really. I like to keep a level head, but it was just strange that I noticed that. The cat was dead, but I saw the back half of the cat disappear under the sofa, just out of the corner of my eye. I wasn't looking directly at it, so. And I have got very poor eyesight. I'm almost blind, but that's another reason why I'm not at Loch Ness this week, because I need to get that sorted. There's no point. But but that was very strange that I kind of had this thing in the corner of my eye, and it was a tail and the back pair of black legs run under the sofa, and I thought, that's odd. But anyway, only happened for a second. Could have been seeing nothing, but could have been seeing something.
But the interesting point of that is you didn't go there looking for it, did you?
No, I didn't. Definitely not.
Hasn't.
I was aware, and also, the cat had a nice life. Got to an age where they weren't going to live much longer. Got to accept that. That's how it goes. So the cat killed plenty of small animals and enjoyed itself during its time. So there was no reason to feel sorry for what it had done, and that was how it was. So yeah, peculiar. But anyway.
Can I ask you, Ian? I want to ask Ian something just quickly. Steve Feltham has lived on the shore of Loch Ness for how many years? 20 years?
1991 he went there, and if you want to look on YouTube, there is a documentary of when he actually moved up there when he was a young man. So
if anyone was going to find anything substantial living there, being there 24/7, surely it would have been him. Why hasn't he done that up until now?
It's hard to say. He doesn't like me to start with. Let's go there. I did nothing wrong. I don't know. He doesn't like me. All right. I went to see him and he wasn't in, and I went to see him. he wasn't in, so I made a short video just for a laugh. Oh, he lives there, or does he? Is that actually his shop? Is that his place to sell T-shirts and fridge magnets and things like that? Is he selling those? And then I put that online, and then he had a go at me. So I don't know, but yeah, you'd think being there all that time, he doesn't actually. He says it's a catfish, and I'm thinking, well, if you think it's a catfish, what are you still doing there? You've solved the mystery, have you not? But yeah, it's a bit odd that. Credit to him for doing it, but then there's a funny side to the guy, which yeah, there we go.
Oh, he
V
lives
has
in
just said
town.
Steve
So.
Felton's living with his
Ah,
girlfriend in town, not on the shore. So yeah, I think I did discuss this with V, but I'm not going to make anything of it.
Allegedly.
I
I
do my
think we
own
need to
thing.
shove the word
Yeah,
allegedly up half a
allegedly.
dozen
Yeah,
times.
V. Yeah, no, he does. He lives in that. He lives there. Yeah. Hang on. Robert Fulton has said no. He stays with no. Allegedly. I'm not saying these things, Steve. Don't ever go at me again. But yeah, well, it is what it is, isn't it? So he hasn't. He says he's had one sighting of the monster, but then, as I said, though, he says when people ask him now, what do you think it is? He says, oh, I think it's a catfish. Well, okay, to start with, that's not a mystery animal, so there's nothing really to be solved. But do catfish live in Loch Ness? I don't think many things do, just eels and I think salmon as well. But anyway, maybe the odd trout. But
And I
yeah.
believe there's Arctic char, and there's Arctic char. There's been reports of other smaller fish there. But the trouble is with catfish, they're not indigenous to Britain anyway.
Yeah, and sturgeon. And Adrian Shine he says, oh, I think it might be a sturgeon. But again, are they, I don't think they're, we get sturgeon
Yeah,
in Britain. I
sturgeon
know they
and
get,
that.
isn't Loch Ness salt? Isn't it a body of salt water though?
No,
Oh, it's not.
no, it's very peaty, but it's freshwater.
Oh, I thought there was salt in it. Oh, okay.
And the thing is about the sturgeons are androgynous. They do go between saltwater and freshwater, and Scotland and the rest of Britain is just about within their range. There is
Catfish
no
are purely.
reason. Sorry?
Catfish are purely freshwater, aren't they?
Yeah. Now, the
Yeah.
thing is about catfish, Britain is not within their range. In the 19th century, there was a magnificently
Excuse me.
eccentric organization called the Acclimatization Society that used to
Sorry.
go to every far-flung part of the empire, bring back strange creatures from the aforementioned far-flung parts of the empire, and carefully introduce them to Britain so they would acclimatize to the British climate. Then, after a year or so, they'd hunt them down and eat them. Completely, utterly ludicrous organization.
that
But
is,
they're the reasons that we've got so many foreign species of deer in Britain today. They're the reason why we have quite so many foreign species of game bird in Britain today. And they're part of the reason we have wallabies in Britain today. And yes, they did introduce the European catfish to various stretches of water in Britain, most notably, as far as I'm concerned, to parts of the Leeds-Liverpool Canal. But
and also, John, farmers introduced the mongoose into the Isle of Man for pest control. But that's for a different week, isn't it? Let's
yes, of
leave that
course.
tonight. Yes.
But I have no records of there being an official introduction by the Acclimatization Society, or indeed anybody else, of bringing European catfish into Loch Ness. I don't know. I've got severe doubts as to whether a European catfish would live in the heavy peaty waters of Loch Ness. it certainly wouldn't be able to breed there. There is, I suppose, the theory that if somebody introduced a European catfish to Loch Ness when it was younger, they could have grown larger and larger and larger and larger over the years. But personally, I think that although European catfish are, as far as I'm concerned, the answer to quite a few lake and river monster sightings, they really are not relevant
Now,
to
if it's
Loch
not a
Ness at
catfish,
all.
could it be a pike? Because they grow pretty big, don't they, I believe?
And they live there. I have the list up.
Not as big as catfish, but
No.
catfish do get to be huge. Though that's the thing.
Massive catfish.
Yeah.
The general vibe, and also that Gamel guy, was the eunuch eel theory, where eels come into the river to live, and then they go out to sea to spawn, and then as soon as they spawn, they die. Yet some eels stay. The eunuch eel stays in the river and doesn't go out to sea to spawn, and it just lives in the river, eating and growing, and it can be huge. And you do get huge eels, so that is a possibility.
Yeah, one of
But
the problems with this is that, and I don't want to cast aspersions about Professor Gemmel's work because I've never met him and I look forward to talking to him. But in New Zealand, their species of eel, what's their common eel called the New Zealand long-finned eel, they can get bloody massive. They can get up to 12 feet long. And I think that the fact that there is a plethora of eel DNA that's been found in the eDNA sampling from Loch Ness might have, I don't know, rung a bell in Professor Gamble's head, and he didn't realise that the European eel is nowhere near as large as the New Zealand eel. The European eel there are very, very few reports of it getting longer than 4 feet in length. There are a few, but very, very few.
you see some. Yeah,
Ian, when you
Yeah.
hold up that toy that you've got there and just look
Yes.
at the head, just look at the head,
Yes, there we go. The head here.
just the head on its own, that's quite eel looking, isn't it? When
Well,
you
it
think
is.
about
Yes.
it, that is. So, could it just be an eel in there?
Well, obviously, this is the classic thing, but no, because obviously we think of the monster thus, don't we? Doing that. Now, an eel couldn't do that above water. An eel is always going to be level on
You
the
get all
water.
that and you get that.
You
Yeah.
just said something there, Vivian, my love, that I want to take exception to. You said, could it just be an eel?
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you guys see that scar on my finger?
Is that what an eel did?
The eel that did that when I was out poaching eels with my mate David when I was about 13 was this size. If there is
Really?
an eel that's gone to 12
Mm.
foot tall, that would be one fuck of a monster. It wouldn't be, is the Loch Ness Monster just an eel? It'd be, what, there's a 12-foot tall, there's a 12-foot long eel in Loch Ness. It could take your arm off. It would be a massive monster. And you don't have to hypothesize all sorts of Jurassic Park scenarios to not have a monster there. I think a 12-foot eel, if there are eels of that size in Loch Ness, is the absolutely magnificent creature.
And also you have the conger eel, and they can get to big sizes. Obviously, they're fresh water. But when I used to go fishing, when I was younger, salt water, whatever, yeah, I would catch conger eels, and you had to be careful with them. They would, when you bring them out the water and grab them, they would like to swing round and give you a bite if they could, if you didn't hold them correctly. But yes, so yeah, there's different theories. But what we really want is a dinosaur, isn't it?
I think
That's
we
why
need to
we're here.
ask Dave to send Bigfoot to Loch Ness, jump in that water, catch whatever it is, throw it out of the water for us so we can all take a look at it.
Yeah, and of course, Bigfoot could travel from Canada all the way to Scotland.
I'll ask him.
He could go in
Ask him.
Elvis's UFO.
He'd need more than one
Well-
seat, wouldn't he?
Well, they say it might be interdimensional, so why couldn't he go and visit?
Oh, no.
Here on
Hey.
holiday.
Go there.
We
He
play with
might,
our
he might
toys,
already
Dave.
be here.
Well, we seem to have got onto Bigfoot, David. You've had you over the last year or so have had
About a year now.
encounters.
Well, I've worked at the same location for 6 years. Never heard a thing. Sitting there one day, I've got a rail line right in beside me, and the train's going by, and he lets go a single 2,
Highlander,
which is a warning to get off the tracks. I was sitting with my wife at the time in the van at work. We both work at the same place. And I heard this loud whoop. Of course, I thought I was nuts because I wasn't out working the field, or I was working my job. And I looked at her and she goes, I heard that. So I got out and I walked over to the fence line by the railway track. Got a rock thrown at me. So very, very cool. I think I called you like right away, John, and probably woke you up out of bed because I have no time concepts. And so that was very cool. But over the coming next 3 months, I had 2 more whoops. I had something large go crashing through woods. And this is a really small area. That's why, like, when people say, well, Loch Ness isn't big enough or any of this, I don't have a problem because I would never have thought of a Sasquatch being in a suburban area. But we've had a lot of wildfires in the last few years. As you saw from my PSAs, I said to John, I'm really annoyed at the way we're burning our forests through carelessness right now. It's driving things to places they're not usually associated with. And I think we're going to see more and more cryptid animals being seen as we build out further and as we carelessly set our forests on fire and drive them down into us. It's the same as anything. I saw, I don't know if you guys know what an onzo is. It is a melanistic cougar with stripes, a lot like a thylacine. We're out for a drive one day and between Fort Worth and Denton, Texas. That's where we lived at the time. Just driving the back roads, checking it out, So this huge cat go across the road, but it had stripes. So I got out. I got pictures of the tracks that it left. I sent them to a friend of mine that works for the U.S. National Forestry Service. He's not a big cat expert. He sent it to one of his cat experts, and they told me to just stay out of that area. It's a big cat, and to always look up. So I never did see that again. They were a cryptid at the time. Now they're a known species because somebody shot one. Great way to catch a species. But it's the way it is. We have to kill things to prove them nowadays. It seems. I won't ever. But yeah, it's really strange how things can happen. I was looking at Loch Ness there, Ian, on my phone. I don't know if you realized I was on my other phone there. What was I going to say? You guys are really granite around there. You definitely got underwater rivers. I have not seen rock coverage like that without underground aquifers and whatnot. So that might be something you might want to concentrate. I'm sorry to the people from Loch Ness that make a living up there. You guys might want to go to Loch Ness, which is clearer, and concentrate your money and your research up in there, because I'm willing to bet Ian's right, and they are connected somehow underwater, and it is moving between the two. You're going to get better pictures in clear water. That's just a given, because I've seen pictures underwater at Loch Ness and went, yeah, you can go see, you're going to see it when it's biting your head off. So
You won't be able to buy a Lochmara fridge magnet though, or a little Lochmara model, or a T-shirt with Morag on. Whereas at Loch Ness you can buy all those things.
Well, if the CFZ do a trip to Lochmara, we will set up an online shop so you can buy all your tack from us.
You did actually do one, didn't you, John? Many moons ago, about 20 years ago, was there not? I remember.
That was
And,
where I sold. We also sold ladies' knickers with Richard Freeman's face on the gusset.
It's pretty good.
Do you need a visit, John?
I'm sorry?
Do you need a visit?
Is that the Jersey Devil you got there?
It's actually a skeleton dragon.
That's pretty good.
It looks like a
Ian, I was
Jersey
going to
Devil.
say, while you're there as well, what about doing something? I'm not telling you what to do, but this is just a thought that come into my head from a ghost hunter's point of view, and maybe Dan will agree, is as well as doing your experiments that you would normally do, what about just setting up and doing a lot of what I call electric voice phenomena, the EVP, to see if you pick up sounds of whatever's in there, because you might hear it before you see it. So there might be.
Yeah. Well, there has been recently with these quest things they're doing. It's quite commercial, I think, the quest thing, isn't it, John? And I think there's a lot of it is down to it's organised by the museum, which has recently been refurbished there. But they do underwater recordings there and have picked up sounds, so they say. Nothing exciting, but yeah, there is that as well. So
They picked up some what they call glooping sounds, wasn't it?
yeah, then also there was a recent documentary I saw, which was nothing. The documentary wasn't that good, but there were some. They did pick up some of the volunteers did pick up an underwater sound, which did sound quite interesting. And I thought that's all right. And then they said, "Oh, there you go. Let's move on to something else. Let's look at the surgeon's photo now." It's like, well, hang on a minute. These people have got a new piece of evidence. Let's analyze this. And they never actually followed it up,
No, and
which
the
was a shame,
surgeon's
really.
photo is nearly 100 years old and has been proven to be a fake for the last 35.
So yeah, it was just the recent. It was a few months ago. This documentary, just old hat, really. The stuff we knew, not like the one we reviewed. What was it called from 2003 with all the clips of the documentaries in.
They
Loch
created
Ness.
monster.
Yeah, it was really good, wasn't it? We reviewed it for the magazine and also did CFZ review of the program. That was brilliant. That was, and it had so much footage that we'd not seen before, which was about the monster hunt from the 60s and 70s, wasn't it? It's great.
I believe it's still being streamed on Netflix.
I think it's probably still on BBC.
Oh, it's on BBC iPlayer. I knew
That
it was
was
on
it
one
was
of the ones I had.
it was BBC Scotland, and for the viewers, what we're talking about was you get these Loch Ness documentaries which just cover the same old ground, don't they? But then in 2003, the BBC Scotland came out with this one, and it was just mainly purely footage from the 60s and 70s, which was the boom time for monster hunting. There's so many expeditions went to Loch Ness and didn't find anything, but it was just amazing to see what happened at the time with Robert Rhines and the Chinese expedition, and Adrian Shriners in there, Tim Dinsdale, and all that period.
And of course,
Here's a question. So people that swim in the loch don't think it's hurt anybody. Has there been any reports of anyone being hurt in that loch from swimming?
Well, there's the original site, the first sighting, which was, what was it, 500 AD, St. Columba, St. Columbia or whatever, where someone was swimming across the loch and the monster went to attack the swimmer, but St. Columba, being a religious man, stood up and said a curse and drove the monster away. So there was that one. And also I think there is a sort of a medieval story which has emerged where the monster did actually kill someone on land, or some kind of monster in the area. But yeah, in terms of contemporary sightings or contemporary reports, no. But
has anybody gone missing there?
Yeah, isn't there a story of, and I think this was Loch Ness. I got it in Peter Costello's In Search of Lake Monsters. Isn't there a story from the 19th century about a water horse dragging some girls under the water and they drowned?
That's what the water horse used to do, wasn't it? That's the Kelpie. The Kelpie would be a horse on the side of the loch, and it was an evil spirit, and a weary traveller would come across the horse and think, oh, this is all right, there's a horse here, I'll get on the horse and carry on my journey. The traveller would get on the horse, and the horse would jump into the loch and drown the traveller. So maybe something along those lines. But I think, didn't we review something recently, John, on CFZ about I'm trying to think what it was. It was something along those lines. But anyway, but no, I don't think contemporary sightings of the monster. I don't think there's been any deaths or attacks. Oh, that's right. It was a swimmer, wasn't it? Recently, John, a swimmer swimming swimming in the loch, and he felt something underneath. He bumped into something solid underneath him.
Yeah, and a few weeks later, somebody in a small boat,
that's right, yeah.
the same thing. But that didn't do him any harm.
Didn't do any harm, but
as far as I know, Robert, there have been no reports of modern reports anyway of danger from these creatures, and that they do, and I say creatures in inverted commas because we don't know what they are, they do seem to be benign.
Docile, in fact. But also there was the report from the maybe early 1970s, I believe. Roger Badger, the diver? He was diving in Loch Ness and had an encounter with the monster underwater, and he still talks about the encounter to this day, where he absolutely, crapped himself when he saw that and shot up to the surface, and said he'd never dive in Loch Ness again. So various things.
We've had that with sturgeon in the Ottawa River, where divers have gone down to get deadheads, and they poke up what they think is a big old white pine, and it swims away, and they've come up and quit their jobs because they're, you got 100-year-old sturgeon. That's a big fish, and that'll scare you, and that's only 12, 13 feet long. So you imagine something that's 30, 40 feet long, that's going to scare the crap out of you.
To be honest, I think you're very brave to ever dive again anywhere, let alone back in there, because you wouldn't get me in it after that kind of experience.
Here we go. Robert Brock Badger, who he was swimming in Urquhart Bay on the 8th of August 1971 when, the monster swam in front of him. We'll cover it on CFZ one afternoon. That story it's a good story. But anyway, we were going on about Sasquatch, weren't we, David? I don't want let's.
I actually struck gold not long ago. I don't know if England is doing this. UK. We have pretty much digitized all our newspapers here in Canada, and now you can search them. I found I'm actually doing a spot for John, surprise, on all the new Sasquatch and Wildman stories from the 30s, 40s, 20s, 10s. And that's all I've done so far, because this is a gold mine. I was wondering if you could go through and actually see. Ian knows, and I know John knows. Vivian won't. And I can't remember the gentleman's name. And I can't
Dan.
read it because I'm Dan. I'm a big believer that Sasquatch is migratory. He's going to do the same path over and over and over again. We have cameras up at Area F already. I'm not watching them. My ex is and her new boyfriend, but I'll take any help I can get in the field right now. So I just want to prove things. And Vivian, you and I need to talk later about shadow people. Because there's also those at that work location, and it supposedly used to be a haunted house. So, yeah, many years ago. So, I was talking to John about it one night, and he goes, "Talk to Vivian." So,
But
I will
David,
get with you on
obviously
that.
the money
Yeah,
shot.
but
Have you seen Sasquatch? Have you seen Sasquatch?
Me, I have not seen one. No, I have
Good.
not.
Okay, carry on.
Yeah. I've seen more than enough evidence to convince me that it's a unknown species. There's nothing. It's not that hard to believe. Only 15% of all land animals have ever been discovered, and only 5% of all water animals have been discovered. Now that includes insects, types of snails, and whatnot. But you consider if we only know 20% of the total population of the planet, you've got 80% of unknown animals. I used to go out and just look for Sasquatch. That's all I used to do. Now I go out, I'm looking for everything. And no, I did not, Robert. I have dogs, so I know what a dog sounds like. And I used to work in a rescue. The chances of seeing things that you've never seen before are really good if you keep your eyes open and keep an open mind. I'm not a big fan of the Loch Ness Monster myself, being a plesiosaur or anything, but, and I always put a but at the end of that statement. Somebody saw something. Is it a plesiosaur? I don't know. So therefore, I don't know. And I think every researcher in the world needs to start taking this mindset. I've met so many people in the Bigfoot field that, nah, it's not what it is. Yeah, well, maybe it is. And I know when Vivian said interdimensional, I hate that theory. I'm sorry. I think it's just a flesh and blood animal, but somebody's right. And
someone saw something. That's the thing.
Yeah,
someone saw
they
something.
saw something. Yeah, so there's somebody's right.
Yeah.
So I am never going to dismiss
I want to point out
anybody's
something
theory.
that nobody's mentioned ever. I listen to a lot of experts. Jonathan, he's introduced me to a lot of people, and none of them have mentioned this word, evolution. So with the animals that we know and that we know of, I mean, humans are horrible. We are a horrible species, want to kill everything and destroy everything. These animals are going to change and evolve and maybe turn into something else. But they've got the right sense of mind to stay away from human beings because we all want to kill them. So, yes, there might be something new that's undiscovered. We're discovering new stuff all the time as humans. But there could be something, like you said, David, something that we don't know. There could be something in the seas or in Loch Ness that we don't know through all these hundreds of years that stayed away and evolved into something. And I think Dan would know more about animals and evolving and stuff because you've been out there. You've studied that, Dan, haven't you?
Yeah, I think you can take into consideration that we lose X amount of animals a day, and we discover new species all the time. It's just it's bewildering, really. It's just you couldn't even get your head. I can't even think on it wholly because it blows my mind. It hurts my head to think what could possibly be out there that we haven't discovered yet. There's lots. Forget the oceans. There's lots of dark places on terra firma that we've not been to yet. You know.
What about the theory, though? What about the theory that Bigfoot could be Gigantopithecus, isn't it? Gigantopithecus.
A species of.
Gigantopithecus.
Yeah, an evolved one.
Which did exist, didn't it? That was a sort of a whenever it was. That was a missing link. Gigantopithecus was a big, hairy man, which did exist. I don't know, 10 million years ago, whatever. I don't know too much about it, but I do know that. Is that a possibility?
I'll be honest with you. I think the Smithsonian have got a lot to answer for because they said to be bones that found in Turkey that were related, giants, that all of a sudden they've been spirited away by the Smithsonian and never ever put into their vaults and never ever seen again. And these have been factually documented instances that people have, they put it down on black and white. And
I
know it sounds conspiratorial, but I genuinely think that there's something going on out there that they don't want us to be privy to.
Well, it's money.
It's money, and I think it's something more sinister than that as well going on.
That could be.
Can't get anything more sinister than money.
No, that's true. Power.
Power's basically all about money as well. Says me wearing my Angry Brigade t-shirt.
What's that? What's your t-shirt?
What's it say? Let me see it.
Angry Brigade, an anarchist group from the early 70s.
Hey!
What is that, John? Angry Brigade.
Up the anarchists.
I got Jim Morrison.
And
there's a mystery for you. Is he still alive?
No.
Anyway.
No, he's dead.
Not. I hope he's still alive.
Can I just say, through talking to Jonathan about a completely different subject on a show, we got onto flies that ate bodies. And then we had a conversation about the bone skipper fly. And then you explained that they were considered extinct. And variations of this bone skipper fly, it's come back, isn't it, in Europe, John?
Well, not only has one species been rediscovered, 3 species have been now. So there are more species of bone skipper fly known to science than there ever have been.
That's cool, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
so
that's
if that can happen,
they thought were extinct.
Yeah.
But even that's not the most amazing. The most amazing one to me, the little island of Bermuda. It's tiny. I can't tell you the exact size of it, but it is tiny. And in the 16th century, there was known to be a bird on there, which was a type of petrel, known as the cahao, or Bermuda petrel. And it was supposed to be hunted to extinction by sailors who took its eggs to eat, until it was rediscovered about a century ago, after a gap of nearly 500 years on a tiny island. So this shit happens.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
It's the same situation with Gerald Durrell, wasn't it? When he went looking for he felt that he wanted to rescue the Rodriguez bat and the fruit bat, and people said these are becoming very rare. They're almost extinct. We need to do something. We need to get some, put them into a program, breed them, maybe reconstitute areas with them. I don't know. And they did that, and then when they sailed around the other side, there was millions of the buggers. They just moved.
Well, you go where I lived last year, you won't find me.
Hi, Bobby.
Yeah,
sorry, my eyesight's terrible. I can't see what anyone's
Robert,
saying.
it says, just think about it. If someone found the monster, it would go to the highest bidder. That's what
Sad,
I
isn't it?
worry about.
Sad, isn't it?
Yes,
Very true.
Some bastard would think they got God-given right to shoot it.
The thing is, though, you know, I'm into late monsters. Dave likes Bigfoot. Viv, you're ghosts. John is everything. Dan, what's your thing? It's a hot
Ghosts
potato.
mainly.
It's a hot potato. Catch.
Ghosts mainly. I mean, animals, obviously, wildlife have been my passion all my life because I've worked in zoos for many years. But as a hobby, well, animals as a hobby as well, really. But as a hobby, ghost hunting.
Yeah,
and that's sort of something
you're a
that,
ghost guy, yeah?
Yeah, I kind of got into it out of interest, really. It was just kind of things that had happened that I had no answers for.
Yeah.
And I decided to get into it. And then from that, it sort of flourished and it became an obsession rather than a hobby.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's me, really.
But it's funny, though, you say that, Ian, because Jonathan sent me to a little place in Cannock Chase because of a newspaper article that a member of the public had seen this particular...
Stan Collymore, was it?
Well, I went there, and as soon as I arrived at the car park, I knew exactly what this person had seen. And I went there not with a critical eye. I went there hoping to see something exciting and spectacular. No, I got there, and as soon as we arrived, I knew exactly what that place was, and I knew exactly what he'd seen. Now, I need to go back and prove it, and I don't know how I'm going to do that safely.
You saw some ectoplasm appear.
Well, you talk about ectoplasm. Let's put it in the human form that comes from a man. Let's leave it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a new program. We shouldn't go down that route.
No, but what the point I'm trying to make is
there's other channels for that.
Yeah, the point I'm trying to make is cryptids is not my bag, but by taking up that challenge from Jonathan and going there and looking at it from a different perspective may have, I'm not saying it has, may have solved the case. I'm a firm believer, that's what's happened. I just need to go back and catch someone in the act, and bang, there we go, there's your proof.
Bang, there we go, they get arrested.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's not just cryptids though, you know, it's ghosts, it's UFOs, you know, whatever, you know, this is a mixed bag. But Cannock Chase though is all sorts, isn't it? There's a guy who writes a lot of books about it. I can't remember his name, but it's Pigman.
That's what I went to investigate.
Yeah. What else is there?
Lee Brickley.
Is that his name? He's written quite a few books. If you look on Amazon, I'm not going to buy any unless someone wants to give me a PDF of one and I'll have a look. And if it's any good, I might do. But
I read one of them recently.
Yeah.
And I was
good?
Surprisingly, yes. Because I thought it was going. I'd heard all sorts of dubious things, and I thought it wasn't going to be very good. But I read it, and you couldn't fault his field work or his methodology or the way he did this thing. And I was very, very impressed. That was the one about Bigfoot type creatures. Still don't think they're Bigfoot. I still don't think there are any flesh and blood hominins in Britain. Apart
it doesn't
from
matter. It doesn't matter whether you don't believe it. It's about looking at the evidence. It's about
yeah.
You know, a lot of what you're reading is true. What surrounds it is true. Whether the main point of it isn't true.
He was very thorough, very meticulous, and wrote engagingly. So I would check out.
You know.
Also,
I like to. Yeah, go on, John.
If you've got Kindle Unlimited, a whole bunch of his books are available for free if you've got Kindle Unlimited. So you pay, I think it's £7 a month, and you've got access to a load of books for nothing. And
that's not bad.
Several of his books are those.
To be honest, though, Jonathan, if he'd been to that place lots and lots of, how many times has he been? What actual experiments on what work has he put in? I mean, if he'd been there over the space of, I don't know, 5-10 years, and now he's decided to bring out a book, I would take more, like with Ian. Ian's going back to Loch Ness and he keeps doing his experiments and things. I would take more with what Ian has found and his factual, this is what I experienced, this is what I felt, this is what I did over a period of years, rather than someone that just went once and wrote a book. You know, this is what I'm frightened of falling into that trap. You know, he's written this book, well, must be good then. You know, I know I couldn't rely on you, Jonathan, but
you couldn't rely on me in what way, my dear?
No, I said I could rely on you. I know I could rely on you.
Oh, I'm
because
going
you know
to.
stuff.
I'm just a silly old man now, anyway. But no, Bristol's written a lot of books, and he obviously has studied the history and the geography and the folklore of Cannock Chase deeper than anybody else that I've ever come across. Even deeper than Nick Redfern, and Redfern's an old friend of mine. He did a lot of work there. So no, I'm very impressed with what he's done. I would not like to hazard a guess why it is that you immediately jumped to the probably correct conclusion that that particular car park is used for
a certain thing.
Sexual nocturnal gatherings.
Footballer Stan Collymore was caught there doing it, wasn't he? So
was he?
Yeah,
yes,
he was. Yeah.
Please tell me he was wearing a pig mask, because
I don't know, but no.
But why? I just think we need to be told, because I think Viv seems to know a hell of a lot more about dogging than I do. This is a bit disturbing.
I'm a bit older than I look, and
you're still a wee slip of a girl.
But no, it was obvious, and I understand that the craze now is for mask wearing to hide identities and things like that. So it would not surprise me.
Yeah, but it's good to have a pig man. It is half man, half pig. That's why we're here. That's what we want. If someone wearing a mask, let's just go home. But no, it's the possibility of these things.
And if somebody decided, oh, I'm going to wear a pig mask tonight, because they knew of the folklore of there being a pig man seen in the area, that just compounds things even more. And it adds to the irresistible web of weird shit that the universe weaves for us.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's a military base nearby, is there not, where they may have carried out experiments?
Not by the place where I went. Where I went,
not. I thought there was a military base nearby.
There's always a ubiquitous military base, isn't there?
Well, where they could have carried out experiments, which would have resulted perhaps in a pig man escaping. So there we go. Problem solved.
my plan where I went is I went to Castle Ring. I'll tell you, I went to Castle Ring, which is more historical. It's a historic site more than anything else. It is very small, but yeah, don't go there after dark.
Castle
Ring. Castle Ring.
Where is that in the UK? Where's
Staffordshire.
Cannock Chase.
Oh, you went there. And what is it? Is it some kind of ancient ring?
It's an ancient site of a.
Britons used to go dogging.
That's where Stan Collymore.
It was an ancient site, fortified site with a moat.
We're trying to lay off that. We'll get more viewers if we do that. If you want, should we up the tempo? Okay. So have another one of these, and we'll get.
It's a fortified site with a moat and
Premiership footballers were pleasuring themselves whilst watching. Yeah.
Not a good place to go at night.
Yeah. Oh, we've
Just
just got
be aware.
5 more viewers now. So
William
we've done that.
Mouse, I forgot to ask you before we started, what time were we supposed to finish?
Whatever time you like. We've done an hour and a half, believe it or not.
Well, it's not bad. It's the first show, so obviously the viewers. How are we looking viewer-wise? Let's have a quick look.
They've all gone, have they?
I'm sure we'll pick up. Wait there. How many viewers have we got?
Where's the bit
We have
saying
got-
how many viewers there are?
Well, I'm on YouTube, so I'm on YouTube, so I'm looking at 2 viewers. So obviously I'm watching, so I'm one of them. So we've got one other viewer. So that's pretty good.
It's me.
I'm on Facebook. We've got 6 at the
David.
moment.
Yeah, we're killing it. We're going to get some good money tonight for our
Ian,
whatever it is.
I'd like to at some point have a show where we can talk about this mermaid thing that's been put in the spotlight.
Well, yeah, I'm not a
get your
big
thoughts
mermaid
on-
person, but what I do, and which I've done for John on his program, and I'm doing an article, is on the Fiji mermaid.
Ooh.
So we can look at that. That's really what I like. Obviously, that's not a real mermaid, but it's a good
But
sort of,
I've got a Fiji mermaid, so we can
You
do
got
a
one.
Fiji mermaid show, and I can
I think there's just a
bring one
general
on.
show. There's obviously mer people, and we can, their existence we have to look at, but we can throw in the Fiji mermaid, which is, I think, important to the story. You've got one. I found one, and also, I'm a little bit interested in that. I can talk on the Fiji mermaid anyway, so we do. Yeah, mermaids will be pretty good. We'll cover that shit. Yeah, can we say shit at this time of night?
You can say what you
Sure.
like here.
Yeah, I don't say that on CFZ, but John, you should hear me on my other programs.
What I would say is we're going to have a lot more people watching the show. My name is,
Oh, sorry.
I can't, and I'm here
Eminem.
for the first time. Hello, Rose. I hope you're enjoying the show and you're not too put off by this.
Daniel!
Evening, Daniel. I hope you're not put off by this bunch of weirdos. But what I was going to say is a lot more people are going to watch this because this is going to be posted up on the CFZtv at some point soon. When that happens, anybody who's watching this show, either watching it live or watching it afterwards, let us know what you'd like us to talk about. Because I've got a whole bunch of things that I think we ought to be talking about at one time. So please give us a list of things you want to have shows about, and we'll do our best to accommodate you. I think, guys, I'm going to call an end to it for one very important reason. I'm a diabetic, and I'm in my late 60s, and I very much want to pee. So I think that's probably a pretty good way to close down. I want to say a big, big thank you to, first of all, to Vivian for helping me put this whole bloody thing together, but a big, big, big thank you to Dan and to Dave and to Ian and to Harlem, who was here but isn't here, and we'll have him back when his internet isn't playing up. And we'll have you, Daniel, since you've arrived out of left field. You're going to be on the show some point. And V would have been on the show tonight, except he couldn't get his camera to work. So once all these technical problems are sorted out, all sorts of people are going to be on the show. Robert, I'm glad you enjoyed it, mate. So, because I'm desperate for pee, I think let's call it the end. Do we have ending music? Do we have an outro video?
We don't. Maybe that's something we can do.
I could whistle.
Okay, whistle, please, Dan, as we fade into the sunset.